For the longest time, anime was this kind of niche hobby. But today, it's an absolute cultural force and a multi-billion-dollar business. We're talking about anime, of course. So let's break down exactly how this art form became such a global business powerhouse. I mean, come on, you know these faces, right? On the left, you've got Goku from Dragon Ball. On the right, Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece. These characters are known by literally hundreds of millions of people all over the world. They're true global icons. But that begs the question, how in the world did that happen? How did they go from being drawings in Japan to becoming household names on pretty much every continent? Well, I'll tell you this. It was no accident. It was all by design. And that brings us to our first big idea, icons and an industry. Because what you have to understand is that behind these characters we love is a massive, incredibly smart industry that has absolutely perfected the art of turning stories into global franchises. And if you trace it all back, you'll find one company right at the heart of it all, Toei Animation. You can think of them as the dream factory that brought Goku, Luffy, and just countless other heroes to life. Yeah, the dream factory. That's what we're calling this next section, and it's all about Toei. Because really, to get the business of anime, you have to understand this company. Their story is, in so many ways, the story of the entire industry. Okay, so let's just run through their history real quick. They started back in 1956 with this huge goal of becoming the Disney of the East, and they got to work fast. By 58, they'd already made Japan's first full-color animated movie. By 63, they were doing TV series. But the one I want you to really pay attention to is 1972. The licensing business flourishes. That right there is a huge turning point, and we are definitely coming back to it. So this is where it all began. The White Snake was a huge deal. It wasn't just a movie, it was a declaration. It proved that Japanese animation could compete on the world stage, both in terms of pure artistry and just sheer ambition. And then you get something like Mazinger Z. Now this show didn't just create the whole giant robot genre that we know and love, it basically pioneered a business model. This is where Toei had that light bulb moment. Hey, we can sell toys based on the show. That created a completely new way to make money, and it was an absolute game changer. And they did it again with Sailor Moon. They just captured the moment perfectly. They completely redefined the magical girl genre and created a global phenomenon. This proved that anime's appeal could cross any line you could think of. Gender, culture, it wasn't just for boys and giant robots anymore. So what's the secret sauce here? How did they pull this off again and again? Well, that leads us right into our next section, a multi-use master plan. It all comes down to this really powerful strategy they've been honing for decades. Okay, so the big idea is something they call one-source multi-use. It sounds a little corporate, I know, but the concept is brilliant. You take one great idea, one piece of intellectual property, or IP, and you don't just make a TV show. Oh no, you build an entire universe around it. Here's how that pipeline breaks down. First, you create the IP. Maybe you adapt it from a hit manga. Second, you animate it. You bring it to life with world-class production. But here's the magic. Step 3. You monetize it through every single channel you can think of. And when I say every channel, I mean every channel. The TV show you watch, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That leads to movies, video games, toys, t-shirts, food, even live events and musicals. Every single one of these things acts as an ad for all the other things. It's this incredible self-powering cycle of popularity and profit. Okay, so this incredible business model has been humming along for, over 50 years? But now, something new is happening. That long-term strategy is colliding with a whole new wave of fandom, and the results are just mind-blowing, which brings us to anime's new generation. All right, get ready for this number, 42%. According to a recent survey, that's the percentage of Gen Z in the United States who watches anime every single week. That's insane. We're talking about nearly half of an entire generation. And if you think that number's big on its own, wait till you see this. To put it in perspective, you've got anime at 42%. And then you have the NFL at just 25%. I mean, let that sink in. For young Americans, anime is a bigger weekly ritual than America's biggest sport. Wow. And it's not just that the audience is huge, it's also who makes up that audience. This Gen Z anime fan base is incredibly diverse. In fact, Black and Asian viewers show up at nearly double their rates in the general US population. The appeal is super broad and super inclusive. Okay, so here's where it all clicks into place. This is the aha moment. Remember Toei's whole multi-use plan, where a massive chunk of their money comes from selling merchandise? Well, look at this. The data shows over half of all anime fans buy related stuff, apparel, food, you name it, every single year. The business model and the fan behavior, they're a perfect match. So, where does all this lead? You've got this legacy powerhouse with a killer business model meeting a new generation of diverse, super dedicated fans. So, what happens next? Well, that brings us to our final section. The future is animated. And to see the future, we don't even have to guess. Toei tells us their goal flat out: global business development with IP as the strategic core. In other words, they're not changing a thing. They're just hitting the accelerator on the model that's gotten them this far. And believe me, the rest of the world is taking notice. As Polygon's analysis put it, with Hollywood always hunting for the next big thing, anime could very well be the next great source, the next IP well for global blockbusters and franchises. Which really leaves us with this one last thought. This whole journey, from the White Snake all the way to One Piece, it has always been about powerful stories. But today, it's also about powerful business. So as this amazing art form keeps rising, you have to wonder, what happens when our favorite stories are also the world's biggest, most sophisticated business plans?